I never believed in ghosts, superstitions, demons, spirits. It was all nonsense to me. That was before that night, before the Ouija board, before we let something in. It started as a joke, a stupid dare. It was just me, my best friend Danny, his girlfriend Alyssa, and my cousin Mark. We were at Mark's house for the weekend. His parents were out of town, and we wanted to do something thrilling. That's when Alyssa pulled out the old wooden Ouija board from her bag with a sly grin. You scared? She teased, waving it in front of us. Danny laughed. Of course not. This stuff is fake. Mark shrugged. Only one way to find out. I hesitated, but I didn't want to be the coward in the group. So we turned off the lights, lit some candles, and sat cross-legged in a circle on the floor. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows on the walls. The board felt old under my fingers, like its carved letters worn smooth. The planchette, a wooden piece with a small glass window, sat in the middle, waiting. All right, Alyssa said. Everyone put a finger on it. We obeyed. Spirits of the beyond, she intoned dramatically. We call upon you. Is there anyone here with us? At first, nothing happened. Silence, except for the distant sound of wind outside. Then, the planchette moved. Just a little. I thought one of them was messing around, but when I looked at their faces, I saw real confusion. The piece slid to yes. Danny let out a nervous chuckle. All right, who did that? Not me, Mark said, his voice tight. Alyssa leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. What is your name? The planchette twitched, then began moving again. M-L-C-H-I. I swallowed hard. Malachi? A sudden gust of wind rushed through the room, snuffing out one of the candles. My stomach knotted. Mark licked his lips. Malachi, are you a friendly spirit? The planchette dragged itself to no. Alyssa laughed, but there was nervousness in it. Very funny, guys. I'm not doing this, Danny whispered. I swear. The planchette moved again, spelling out, You invited me. Now I am here. The air in the room grew thick, suffocating. My skin felt clammy, my breath shallow. Okay, let's stop, I said, lifting my hand. You can't just stop, Alyssa scolded. You have to say goodbye. Before we could, the board continued. Do not leave me. Then, I see you. A knock sounded on the wall. Just one. Then another. Closer. Louder. We scrambled to our feet as the planchette jerked wildly, faster than our fingers could move it. The candles flared up suddenly, then blew out. The room plunged into darkness. Something exhaled behind me. Cold breath on my neck. I spun, my heart hammering. Nothing there. But the darkness, oh God, the darkness felt alive. Danny grabbed his phone and switched on the flashlight. The beam wavered as his hand shook. We have to say goodbye, Alyssa whispered. We dropped to our knees, fumbling for the planchette. But before we could touch it, the board moved on its own. Too late. The room trembled. The shadows deepened, stretching unnaturally, writhing like living things. A low, guttural growl seeped from the walls. Then the closet door creaked open. A shape loomed inside, blacker than the dark. A pair of eyes gleamed deep, endless pits of void. It stepped forward. Long, clawed fingers gripped the doorframe. The thing was tall, its limbs unnaturally long, its head tilted too far to the side as if its neck were broken. Alyssa screamed. The figure lunged. I didn't think. I grabbed the board, flipped it over, and yelled, Goodbye! Everything stopped. The air lightened. The darkness retreated. The figure was gone. The only sound was our ragged breathing. We bolted from the room, leaving the board behind. None of us spoke. We just sat in the living room, lights on, TV playing mindless noise. Nobody wanted to acknowledge what we had just seen. But that wasn't the end. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard it. A whisper. I see you. My body froze. The air grew heavy again. The closet door creaked. Slowly, ever so slowly, I turned my head, barely breathing. And then two glowing eyes blinked in the dark. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Those eyes, two pinpricks of glowing, malevolent light, stared at me from the gaping blackness of my closet. The air in my room felt thick, like something invisible was pressing down on my chest, squeezing the breath from my lungs. My heartbeat was a frantic drum against my ribs. Then the whisper came again. I see you. It was right next to my ear. I lurched up in bed, whipping my head around, but no one was there. My room was the same as before, except for the closet. The door had opened wider. No, 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 no. I knew for a fact it had only been cracked open before. Now it stood ajar, revealing a deeper blackness inside, as if the shadows within had thickened, solidified. A slow, creaking sound filled the air. The closet door was moving again, opening more, inch by inch. I scrambled for my phone, my fingers numb with panic. The screen lit up 3:13 a.m. The moment I shined the flashlight toward the closet, the movement stopped. The eyes were gone. But the whisper came again. Closer. I felt something cold and sharp graze my ankle. I screamed, kicking wildly, tumbling out of bed and slamming hard onto the floor. My phone flew from my grasp, spinning under my dresser, its light casting strange, shifting shadows on the ceiling. I gasped, scrambling backward, my eyes darting to my bed, to whatever had just touched me. Nothing. But the whisper turned into laughter. Low, guttural, rasping. I lunged for my phone, fumbling with the light, pointing it at the closet. The door was now wide open, and something stood inside. Not just the eyes this time. The thing had a shape, a towering figure, impossibly thin, its limbs elongated and twisted at unnatural angles. Its fingers, God, those fingers, long and skeletal, tipped with blackened claws that twitched like they were itching to dig into flesh. Then I saw its mouth, wide, grinning. Too many teeth. It tilted its head, observing me with the curiosity of a predator toying with its prey. I tried to scream, but my throat seized up. Then it moved. Not with normal steps. It glided. 1 second, it was in the closet. The next, it was at the foot of my bed. The room plunged into icy cold. The pressure in my chest intensified, and suddenly I couldn't move. My limbs refused to obey. It was like something invisible was pinning me down, holding me in place. The creature leaned closer, its grotesque face now inches from mine. And then it whispered, "You let me in." A cold, clawed finger traced along my jawline. "Now you're mine." With a final, choking gasp, I managed to scream. Everything went black. The aftermath. When I woke up, daylight streamed through my window. My body ached and my bedsheets were soaked with sweat. My closet door was shut like it had never opened. For a moment, I convinced myself it was a nightmare. A terrifying, vivid nightmare. But then I saw them, the scratches. Thin, jagged marks on my ankle, the exact spot where I had felt something graze me in the dark. I bolted upright, heart hammering. My phone lay beside my bed, screen cracked, the time reading 7:06 a.m. My first instinct was to get out. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and rushed downstairs. Mark, Danny, and Alyssa were already awake, sitting in the living room, their faces pale and drawn. They looked horrible. Danny had dark circles under his eyes, his leg bouncing anxiously. Alyssa clutched a cup of coffee with shaking hands, while Mark sat stiffly, staring at nothing. "You guys look like shit," I muttered. No one laughed. Mark swallowed hard. Did any of you hear whispering last night?" A chill crept down my spine. Alyssa nodded slowly. "It was in my room." Danny exhaled sharply. I saw something in my mirror." His voice wavered. "It was me, but it wasn't." My stomach twisted. Mark rubbed his face, his fingers trembling. "I saw it standing at my door. It whispered my name." He looked up at me, eyes haunted. "Dude, we messed up. We should have said goodbye." I felt sick. We had left the Ouija board upstairs. Still open. Still waiting. The return. None of us wanted to go back up, but we had to. We gathered around the board again, the morning light doing little to chase away the thick, oppressive feeling in the room. The candles we had lit the night before were now melted into deformed, waxy puddles. The air felt stale, almost charged with something unseen. Alyssa's voice trembled. We say goodbye now, right?" Mark nodded, but Danny hesitated, his hands clenched into fists. What if? What if it's still here? I didn't want to ask the question forming in my mind. What if it never left? Taking a deep breath, I placed my fingers on the planchette. Let's end this. We moved it toward goodbye. The second it touched the word, every door in the house slammed shut at once. The floor shook. The walls groaned like something massive was pressing against them. The whispering returned, but this time it was a chorus. Voices layered on top of one another, laughing, mocking. "You can't leave. You let me in. We are one." The planchette shot across the board, slamming into the word yes, and then I heard it, clear as day. "I'm still here." The end? Days passed, then weeks. I tried to move on, convinced myself it was just a shared hallucination, a mix of fear and adrenaline playing tricks on our minds. Then one night as I lay in bed, I heard it again. A whisper. "I see you." I turned slowly to face my closet. The door was open, and in the dark, two glowing eyes stared back at me.